Hello everybody and welcome to a very overdue gun video. I'm so sorry to all those of you who have subscribed for a really long time. I really appreciate you sticking around. And I can only apologise for the amount of time it's been since my last videos. I'm sure many of you who, like me, are getting a little bit older, those of you who have been around since the airsoft days. I'm getting on a little bit and it's become hard to maintain certain things in my life, and unfortunately YouTube videos, that's the thing that ended up kind of falling through the cracks. I never got as much interest in my newer videos as my old airsoft ones, and unfortunately as you get older and life takes over, some things just have to give, and it was really the YouTube videos that suffered. However, like I said, there's a lot of you that have stuck around. I really appreciate it. So I thought the least I could do was get my collection out for you today and show you, I guess, a state of the collection for July 2023. So without further ado, let's put these ones to one side and let's start with the shotgun. So to kick things off, here we have a Mossberg 500 ATP police shotgun, which hopefully you can see the markings of here, 500 ATP, which I believe was meant to be a police patrol / riot gun. So this has a glossy black aluminium receiver. It has slug style rifle sights on it, and the rear is adjustable windage and elevation if you drift it in the dovetail. The front is completely fixed and doesn't have any coloration or anything to it. It's just soldered, brazed on there. This has a full length, originally 8-round magazine tube, but being a Section 2 UK shotgun, held on a shotgun certificate, it only has a capacity of 2 shells, unfortunately, in that very long tube. So it's a little bit heavier than it really should be. And just to demonstrate that, I've got some snap caps here, so you can fit, and this is of course in 12 gauge, 12 bore. So you can fit 2 in. A third will not go in very far. So if you then chamber one of those, you can then insert your third. So people refer to these as 3-shot shotguns. Magazine capacity is 2, and then 1 in the chamber. It's got a quite nice looking bare metal bolt and lifter arm there. And yeah, originally this would have had wood furniture on it. This one has been replaced with plastic furniture. It was made in the 80s, and as a Mossberg, an older Mossberg, it's just a very reliable, solid pump action shotgun. Not a huge amount more to say about that. By the way, just in case anybody who's interested in watches happens to be watching, this is a Christopher Ward C63 Sealander in 39mm. Lovely watch for the price. Really a big fan of Christopher Ward. Right, what else have we got? Next up, we have a side-by-side hammer gun made by Armi San Marco in Italy. Now, I really like Italian stuff. Anyone who's seen my previous videos will see I've got a few Chiappas. I've had a few Uberti guns, and I think they are really excellent. This one was made in the 60s, I believe, maybe late 50s, I can't quite remember. But it's an older gun. It has lovely colour case hardening over the engraving there. It's an external rebounding hammer 12-bore shotgun with a locking bar that goes across the top there, in addition to the regular one inside, so should be plenty strong. This is a non-ejector gun, so it has extractors, which you can see here. We drop our snap caps in. After firing, the shells will be extracted for you to pull out by hand, but not ejected, which is pretty typical of an external hammer gun. I don't actually know of any external hammer guns that do have ejectors on them. I'm sure they do exist. But yeah, very nicely made gun. I only paid a few £100s for this. I really like these older guns, especially older Italian guns. Very dainty, slim, straight hand stock here, straight wristed stock. Double triggers, which is the only issue with this gun. One of the triggers is a little bit loose, especially once the hammers are cocked. Might be able to hear rattles around a little bit, so I've got a little bit of work to do on this one. 28-inch barrels on this, nice little bead on the end, really good quality side by side with really really excellent craftsmanship, and yeah, lovely style, in really good condition for its age as well. Continuing with the 12-bore shotguns, we have a greener general purpose Martini action shotgun. Now these, you will find one of these in almost every single gun shop in the UK that you pop into. Most of them will have one of these knocking around in the back. They're quite collectible to people who are interested in them, and to anyone else, they're not really all that desirable because they're only single shot shotguns. There are lots of them made, lots of different variations, different models, some really interesting military and foreign sort of police versions of these that exist. This one is a pretty basic, later made, I think this one is a 80s, 70s or 80s gun, with kind of a plum finish to the receiver, which is quite interesting. You see some lovely color case hardened ones, which were made later on. Lots of reading you can do about this if you're interested, all the different models and everything, but just a really good, solid, robust shotgun that scratches that itch for a Martini action for anybody that, well, I'll say anybody that wants one. Who wouldn't want one? This one has a 26-inch barrel, which is on the shorter side. A lot of these are seen with 32-inch barrels, and they're very tightly choked for the most part. Something to be aware of. We've got in the white bare metal breech block there, which is of course actuated by this sort of medium length for a Martini Henry lever. It does kick your shell out if you extract with a little bit of force. So if we just pop our snap cap in there, close it up, safety is automatically applied, that needs to be taken off, can then be fired, and then a good sharp kick of the lever will send it flying out. Great fun. Like I said, really robust shotguns, and if you take this screw out, you can actually unthread the barrel very easily, so they're all takedown models as well. Really excellent guns for the price. I paid £125 for this, which is probably the best £125 I've ever spent. Now, moving on to rifles. Some of you may have noticed this gun make an appearance in some of my previous videos. Unfortunately, I just never got around to doing a review for it, but if any of my guns deserve a full review, it's absolutely this one. I've had it for over 5 years now. Never missed a beat. Lovely build quality, looks gorgeous, and it's a very accurate little rifle. This is a Chiappa 1892 Trapper, which means it's got the short 16-inch barrel. Despite the short barrel on it, it's immensely accurate. Definitely more accurate than it was out of the box now, because I've added this marbles tang sight on it, which I think suits it really well. I've removed the original barrel mounted sight, and you can see here quite how much the sight radius has improved. So from originally, your sight radius is pretty similar to a long barrel revolver. So I've effectively doubled the sight radius by putting the peep sight back there. It was already mechanically accurate, but in terms of sights, it left a little to be desired. But yeah, really excellent accuracy now. The other thing I did to make the front sight a bit more visible is I made my own front sight insert with a brass bead on it, so it stands out a little bit more. And I find it easier to acquire a round bead in the rear peep sight, which is of course round, rather than the square plain notch that it came with. Lovely colour case hardening. Like I said, I've had this about 5 years. It's holding up really well. I know some people don't like these because apparently it's not a real colour case finish, it's more of a chemically applied finish, but this one's held up really nicely. As you can see, reflects the light beautifully. Really good looking gun. And the action, I have done a little bit of work on it, but just naturally over time, it's become incredibly smooth. Maybe not quite as much as a slicked up toggle link gun, but as far as a Browning designed one goes, I don't think you can get much more slick than this. So yeah, fantastic gun. This one is in 357 Magnum. Really lovely and soft on 38 specials, and if you use 38 specials, you can fit 9 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. So as a sort of field ranch kind of gun or something for people that need something like that, I think it's fantastic. It's incredibly lightweight, under somewhere around £6, I believe. Like I said, 10 rounds of 38 special, What more could you want? And again, I got this for an excellent price back in the day. They definitely go for a lot more now, but yeah, if you're looking for an 1892, I can highly recommend Chiappa. Next up is my Ruger 7744, which is a bolt-action rifle in 44 Magnum, which isn't something you see a huge amount. See some of these pop up occasionally for sale in 357, probably slightly more commonly than the 44, but there's a few of these for sale on Gun Trader at the moment if you're interested. All stainless steel. They also do them blued with a wooden stock, but this is the stainless steel all-weather version with a synthetic stock, which is quite handy because I've ended up chopping a few inches the front of the stock off to accommodate this large over barrel moderator. Now this probably looks quite short to you in terms of barrel length, but I'll show you what it looks like underneath the moderator. Now this moderator is a DPT modular Mark II aluminium suppressor. By modular, I mean you can remove these baffles, these individual baffles, so this body is fixed. You can change the thread at one end, you can change the baffles at the other end, you can add them to extend the length and make it slightly more effective in terms of sound reduction, or you could remove these and just have the one and then put the end cap on and you'd have a much more compact suppressor. But these are very cheap, very lightweight. Now this one isn't ideal. The gun's 44 caliber, the suppressor's made for 45 and the actual diameter is about 1/2 inch. So there's a good gap around the bullet, which means this isn't quite as effective as I might have wanted. However, I've only ever shot it indoors, and most of the noise is the bullet slamming into the backstop. So I shouldn't really complain about that. I really need to try it outdoors. So the barrel on this is actually about 13 inches, but where the over barrel moderator covers up a lot of it, it looks like it's more like a 9-inch barrel. But this is a brilliant, robust little handy rifle. Just like the lever action I showed a second ago, it's very lightweight. It's a similar weight. And due to that reason, I wanted to put a lightweight optic on it. The sights were removed when I had the barrel chopped down, and I drifted this little filler instead of the rear sight. So again, just like the Winchester, it did have quite a short sight radius to begin with, and I've opted to use the Ruger 25mm mounts to mount this ultra dot red dot sight, which is very lightweight. This is actually quite a rare one. It's branded RWS, and it was sold either alongside or as designed for air pistols. I'm not sure whether it was bundled in with an air pistol or not, but I believe these were made in the 90s, so it doesn't actually say ultra dot anywhere on it, but it is an ultra dot sight, and I believe it is a 3 MOA dot, which you might just about be able to see there. Works really nicely on this, very lightweight. It's a very quick to operate pointable gun. My only real gripe with this particular gun, it can be a little bit picky on certain types of cast bullet. It seems to like a larger bullet, so perhaps the bore diameter is very slightly bigger than standard. Works well with factory jacketed ammo though. And of course, everyone always complains, the magazines. These only hold 4 rounds. They're quite expensive. When they get dirty, they can start to become a little bit unreliable. So I'd say the feeding system is probably the biggest issue with these. You've only got 4 rounds in the mag, 1 in the chamber. Realistically, for what you're going to be using this for, you probably don't need any more than that, but a larger magazine would have been nice. This is yet another gun I got for a real steal of a price. I don't even want to say how much I got it for, but typically on the used market, they go for £800 and up. Suffice to say, I got it for less than half of that, but that was just me getting very lucky. So if you're looking for one of these, you're probably going to be, you could quite easily pay £1,000 for one with an optic included and a few magazines. But really good, robust rifles, very lightweight. It's exactly the kind of thing I like. Next, we have the iconic Ruger Mini 14 in 5.56mm or 223. It's happy with either. Actually says in the instruction manual that it's happy with 5.56 NATO, even though the two are basically interchangeable. I think it's interesting that they do specify that they are actually chambered in 5.56. This is a 90s production stainless branch model with the very, very basic dovetailed in folding rear sight with a very basic little peephole there. It is adjustable, of course. You can unscrew that Allen key screw there and drift it side to side, and it does have some very basic elevation adjustment there. Front sight is completely fixed. I added a little dab of orangey red nail polish, which makes it stand out a little bit. But of course, this isn't a standard rifle. It has the lovely Samson manufacturing folding stock put on it, which cost more than I paid for the rifle. But just look at it, it really just makes the whole thing such a cool package. I'm not sure if these are still available or not, but they do make it for the 1022, Ruger 1022 as well, if you fancy one on your 22. And they make it for the Mini 14. And when it's folded, look how cool that is. Pure retro A-team styling. Absolutely love it. It's just one of those guns that I just can't imagine ever selling. Now, if you're not familiar with UK legislation, semi-automatic centerfire rifles fall into the prohibited category. So this doesn't have a functioning gas system. There's no hole in the barrel to tap gas off. It does have the operating arm underneath here, the whatever you want to call it, hanging below the barrel with the operating spring, the op rod. However, without that gas port, nothing moves, and this is a single shot repeating straight pull rifle. So it's click and cock every time. Still, great fun. Good variety of magazines available. As you can see down here, I found a few of these 40 rounders, which I've never actually loaded all the way up. I can't be bothered. But I think they look cool. So I found a few of these 40 rounders, which, okay, maybe a little bit over the top. And this is an original Ruger 30 rounder, which looks pretty good. Although I think most people, including myself, do prefer the original 20 rounders. There's just something about the proportions here that just looks so right. And yeah, the Mini 14s remain pretty much the cheapest straight pull 5.56 223 rifles you can get in the UK. Prices have been creeping up. I paid £400, I think, for this rifle, and then I paid a similar amount on top for the stock. So overall, as a complete package, I'm quite happy with the amount I paid for it. But I have seen the used prices start to creep up, which is a shame. But still, they're great fun. They're not known for accuracy. This one is okay. I've taken it out to 100 meters, and I can certainly keep shots on paper, you know, and in the kind of black on I can't think of what the targets are called, but, you know, you're probably looking at like 3 or 4 MOA. So certainly not a match grade, you know, competition rifle, but for fun, just for a bit of plinking, shooting some targets, I think it is fantastic. Really good rifle. Now here's one that I'm sure a lot of you are going to be quite interested in. And this is a Bradley Arms straight pull AR-15 made in the UK. I believe the receivers are made by Bradley Arms, although I'm sure they buy them in as well. I know that in the past they've used Brownell's ones for their retro builds. Not entirely sure with this, but the colours match quite nicely, so I assume that it's the same manufacturer for the upper and lower. Of course, this is it's a bit of a mix of different designs. So we've got our Dissipator length barrel, so roughly 15.5 inches, terminates just in front of the front sight, and then we've got our later style 3-prong birdcage, sorry, not birdcage, 3-prong M16 flash hider. Birdcage came later, of course, with the A1. The furniture, at least the handguard, is Brownell's. I believe the pistol grip is as well. M16 A1 furniture. These are okay. They're a little bit flexible, not the best. We've got a flat slip ring, which looks really cool. Again, this was a custom build, so I went to Bradley Arms, I gave him my specifications. Mark Bradley, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Trying to think of the name of the other gentleman that runs it now. But either way, if you get in touch with Bradley Arms, they will build an AR-15 to any specification you like. I told them that I wanted a Dissipator style carbine, which means, of course, full length handguard, but shorter carbine length barrel. So like I said, it's about 15.5-inch barrel, but full length handguard with the front sight mounted right at the front. So you can use any full length M16 handguards. A carry handle, unfortunately, they didn't have any A1 style carry handle uppers in. So this is an A2 style, which doesn't look quite as retro in the kind of like Vietnam or prototype AR sense, but it is retro in the sense that it was obviously very common in the 80s. So I guess this is kind of like an 80s looking gun in a lot of ways. And it is a better rear sight, ultimately. It's fully adjustable. For target shooting, it is superior. There we have the Bradley Arms engraving. London, England. I think it's pretty cool to have a UK-built rifle. Originally, this came with a fixed plastic A1 stock, again, a Brownells one. Didn't particularly like it. A little bit plasticky, a little bit hollow feeling. So I ended up putting a carbine buffer on here. And we've got the Car 15 style stock on it, which I think looks really good. So yeah, very happy overall. Now, one thing you might have noticed, a lot of straight pull ARs in the UK have a slot milled for a side charging handle. This one, I opted not to. It would have pretty much been impossible on this particular upper because it does have a forward assist. Most of the ones that are converted into side chargers obviously don't have that because it's right in the way of where you'd need to mill a slot. So I really prioritised the retro looks over practicality here, and this one just charges with the original T-handle. I have put an extended, I think this was Knight's Armament, an extended latch on it though, just to make it that little bit easier to rack it with your support hand. So yeah, it's not the most practical thing, but it really does look pretty cool. I hope you agree. Got a whole bunch of different magazines for it. The 10 round and the 20 round from Lancer are quite good. Of course, they don't fit the aesthetic so much, but in terms of function, those are really excellent magazines. Got a couple of the 20 rounders from Brownells, which function really nicely and look the part. And then I've got a couple of regular GI 30 round Stanags, which I think look pretty good as well. So yeah, this was pretty expensive since I ordered it brand new. Not going to go too much into pricing, but let's just say it cost me more than most of my other guns in my collection put together. And I've put quite a bit of money into it since, various internal parts. It's got a Geisley trigger in it, which is a very nice 2-stage. So it's got a first stage here, and then a very clean break. Excellent trigger, super accurate rifle. It's got quite a heavy barrel in it, which is not good for weight distribution. This is a very front heavy rifle, but I have complete confidence with these adjustable sights and the target barrel. I'd be quite happy taking it to Bisley and shooting at 600 meters, and I think I'd probably do okay. So yeah, great rifle. If you're looking for an AR in the UK, especially something a little bit interesting like a retro build or in an unusual caliber, then get in touch with Bradley Arms. Right, quick edit. I've just finished filming and I realised there's something that I should have mentioned with this particular rifle. Some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed, peeping through here, is what looks like a gas tube. And running down to the front sight, it definitely looks like a gas tube. Now what this actually is a fake one made by Garda, who make airsoft parts. Had it for many years for one of my old airsoft M16 builds, and I thought, you know what, why not put it on this? There's no issues in terms of legality because there's no hole drilled in the barrel here, and this is a solid piece of metal. It isn't actually a tube, it's just meant for an AEG, for an electric airsoft M16. But I think it gives it a real air of authenticity, especially when looking at it from the top. It just didn't look right not being able to see a gas tube in there, and yeah, the fact that you see it poking through there, it actually does interact with the bolt. It goes into the gas key as it would, but it's a completely solid piece of metal. There's no way it can operate as a gas tube. And if I can do this on camera, let's take off see if I can pop a handguard off, and then I can actually show you what's the best way of doing this. Here we go. If I pop off a handguard, I will show you what that looks like, plus how incredibly thick this target barrel is. Right, there you go. So we've got our gas tube here. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to put this in as well is it helps stabilize the front delta ring. Actually, that's not a delta ring really, is it? It's a handguard cap. Yeah, stabilizes the handguard cap, stops it sort of wobbling, which it did a little bit before. Kind of keeps everything aligned in a way. And here we have our incredibly heavy, look at the profile of that. It's I think it's about 3/4 of an inch thick down its pretty much entire length. So bulk of the weight of this gun is in the barrel, but it does make it very accurate and more resistant to heat after a string of shots. It remains more accurate than a skinnier barrel would. So probably a worthwhile compromise there. But yeah, just thought I would show you under the handguard there. Right, so going to some now that were previously featured on the channel. I think all the rest I've got here have been seen before, so refer to my other videos if you want to know more. This is a Browning Buckmark Carbine. Lovely little gun. The wood is beautiful, really nicely made. It's a step above other 22s like a Ruger 1022 or something like that. The machining on this, the design, just the overall quality, it feels like a much more refined, special kind of product, and that's why they demand a little bit more money. I haven't actually looked on a Gun Trader in a while, but they go for quite a bit more than a run-of-the-mill 1022 or something like that. So this one was cut down to about 12.5 inches. Just like with the Ruger earlier, we've got an over barrel moderator, which makes it look like it's got a really tiny barrel, but the barrel does go about halfway through the moderator. Got a little Hawk red dot on here. It's all right, not the best optic going, so I might swap that at some point. But overall, as for a fun little plinker that has a unique style to it, and like I said, it's a sort of a cut above other 22s in terms of quality, fit and finish, and just visual interest. I mean, look how cool that looks. It reminds me a little bit of those Gyrojet, or Gyrojet, however you say it, those rocket guns. Yeah, really cool. Very, very quiet as well. All you really hear is the snap of the bolt flying back. Highly recommended though. If you want something slightly different, an alternative to a 1022 or a 22 caliber AR, I think this makes a really cool alternative. A little bit like the Ruger again. The only real limitation in terms of what you might want to use it for is the 10 round magazines. That's your maximum. You're not going to be able to get anything longer than this, and they're quite expensive as well. So that's quite a common thing with 22s, but yeah, probably the only real downside to this gun. Right, here we have the ever popular Chiappa Little Badger. Now, out of all of my gun reviews, as in my real newer sort of gun reviews, which generally haven't got as many views as my old airsoft ones, this one has proved really popular. I get lots of comments asking about it, the modifications I've done, and I've continued to do stuff to it. So it's looking a little bit bare at the moment. I have actually made a wooden foregrip for it, but I haven't got that on it at the moment. The biggest change, I believe, since making the video is I've made my own set of sights for it. So if I can get this to focus nicely on the sights, you can see a bit of a difference in finish here. And this is because these are completely handmade, hand machined. Well, I say hand machined, you know, using a mill and a lathe, not with hand tools. but these were designed and machined by yours truly. They're a little bit blocky, not the most elegant design, but this allows you to add in a, can't think of the brand of this. I don't know if it's a Marbles or one of the other companies, but it is threaded the same as their little peep sight discs. So you can use different sizes. I don't know if I can get it to focus on the back here. There we go. I've got an adjustable, excuse me, got an adjustable mechanism there for the rear sight. So it can be, the elevation can be adjusted by turning that screw and then just lifting it up and down. Hopefully you can see there how it's a separate piece that the eyepiece is screwed into, that the peep is screwed into. Then the rest of it just bolts down to the top with the screw holes that already exist because the original rear sight was mounted here. And then up front, we've got a dovetailed ramp that again I made myself, and we've got a, who make this? Probably Marbles as well. They do lots, they do so many sight parts and ramps and front sights and all different things. So this is a little gold bead, pretty sure it's Marbles. Yeah, gold bead front sight with a nice little bead on it. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to really show you the sight picture here, but there you go, something like that. Yeah, and it's made the gun quite a bit more accurate. Got our little Wildcat moderator on here, which is completely made out of plastic, but a few years later it is still holding up perfectly fine. So yeah, quite a good little can really. And yeah, this gun's just completely dependable. Years of using it. It's got like a tiny little bit of play between the barrel and the frame, but tightening that up will probably solve that. Really accurate, excellent trigger for what it is. Yeah, some people lay into the Chiappa 2.2s, and I agree that some of them are junk. I don't like their M4 one. Their 22 caliber M1 carbine, yeah, I'd consider that kind of junk. And some of their ones made by other companies that they just rebrand. But this is different. These are really solid, dependable. Okay, and to finish off, we've got my two long barrel revolvers. I did actually have three until quite recently. I had one of the Chiappa Rhino long barrel revolvers. I ended up selling that. Ergonomically, it just didn't quite work for my hands. I found it a little bit uncomfortable. I tried a different grip and that still didn't help, so I ended up selling it. It was a lot of money sat there in something that I didn't really enjoy shooting all that much, as cool as it was. Really cool gun. If it fits your hand, then great, but it's one of those things you really want to get your hands on before you buy. But as seen in my previous videos, I've still got my Taurus, which is in 357. This is a Model 66 silhouette without the top rib. Lovely blued finish. I've got some Hogue, don't know what these are, Cocobolo, some kind of exotic wood grips on. They look absolutely lovely. I actually refinished these myself. They were a little bit scraped up, but I oiled them up, made them look really nice. I think it goes really well with the blued finish. So not a huge amount to say about that. Pretty typical UK long barrel revolver, but usually you see these in stainless and they look a little bit rough. This is a really nice example. So I'm very lucky to have that. And likewise, not a huge amount to say about my Uberti buntline either. It's a completely standard gun. One of my, probably the only gun in my collection that hasn't had anything done to it. It's, yeah, completely standard. 18-inch barrel, 44 Magnum. Usually shoot it with 44 Specials, which is much more comfortable, a bit more accurate in my experience. And yeah, fantastic long barrel gun. It looks like it would be really ungainly with that long barrel, but as you can see here, it's very light, it's very pointable, and yeah, I'm very happy with these two. Good for a little bit of fun at the range. And yeah, I wish they didn't have to be quite so long, but within the parameters of what we can have here, I think these are probably two of the best you can get in terms of fun. Having a competition shooter, you might be looking at something else like the Rhino perhaps, but just for having a plink, having some fun, These are really excellent.
That goes down. There is a safety. Yeah, that one there.
So that just about wraps it up. As much as I wish I had another 10 or 20 of them to show you, that's all I've got at the moment. That is the state of the collection for July 2023. Now, if I get more in the future or the collection changes a lot, then I will do my best to keep you updated. And I know I always say this and it ends up being 5 years until another video, but hopefully I'll have something for you soon. Thank you very much for sticking around, all of those who have stayed subscribed and continue to watch me. I really do appreciate it, it means a lot. And yeah, I think that just about wraps it up. Take care and I'll see you next time.